Hi, I'm Pastor Jeremy, and this is The Next Generation, where we have created videos for you as parents to help you disciple your children into the mature teenagers and eventually adults that you want them to be. Now, today we're looking at the idea of fellowship for mid-high. And we're here in our youth room here at Heights Christian Church. Now, I don't know what the tradition is at your church, but I do know that when we reach mid-high and high school, a lot of churches have a separate area where kids can go off to. And while that's really neat to have, the truth of the matter is that as parents, it can be a great temptation to have a youth ministry. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say. It can be a great temptation to have a children's ministry for that matter as well. Because what happens oftentimes as your kids are growing, if we go to our discipleship segments and our Bible reading segments, we're trying to take our hands off and let our kids be a little more autonomous with their faith. And sometimes what we do as parents is that we take the idea that, well, there's a youth ministry that's there. And so we're going to take our kids to youth ministry, and that will be the equivalent of them going to school, and that's all we have to do as parents. And nothing could be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, as a youth pastor, I have a very unusual view concerning youth ministry. A very unusual view because the Bible says that as parents, you're the ones to raise your kids in the Lord. So it's not as much of a big issue if they ever make it into this youth room or the time that's here. Now, don't get me wrong, this can be a great encouragement to faith and can buttress the faith that they're already getting at home. But if it's only going to be used as a replacement from parents not teaching their kids about the Lord themselves, I'd rather them not come so that you take on that mantle yourself. They're going to learn way more from you than they ever will from me in the short period of time that I have them here. So as parents, make sure that if your kids are coming to a youth group, that you are actively involved with that youth group. It doesn't mean that you have to volunteer, although you absolutely could, but it does mean that you need to be asking them questions about the things that they're learning, about the growth that they're making, about being on the priorities and partnering with the youth pastor, making sure that everybody here is on the same page. Because a youth ministry can be a great complement to a child's faith, but a youth ministry that is left on its own can be a great detriment to a child's faith. Because youth ministry can be treated as if this is your youth church time. That's not true. The youth ministry is only a segment of the body of the church. If the youth ministry becomes the end-all be-all for any youth, whether it's 6th grade to 8th grade or even later, as we'll be talking about in high school, then a very big detriment comes in as they don't get around the full body of the church. You know, the full body is about all ages. It's about all situations, whether they're married, whether they have kids. And your children at 6th grade need to be integrated into the full life of the church. Some of this can be done through a youth ministry, and some of it needs to be done by the continuation of the meeting together of the body of believers as a whole. And as parents, you need to make sure that your kids are involved with that they see the value of that interaction intergenerationally with other people. As a matter of fact, even at this age, 6th to 8th grade, they can be volunteering for things within the church, oftentimes having to do with electronics, having to do with things that they're expert at and that they can start using their talents and gifts and abilities within the fellowship of believers. These two things actually go together pretty well. And so we want to encourage you as parents to let your kids explore a youth ministry that can be a great institution, a great addition to their faith, as well as getting them involved with the talents and gifts and abilities that they have within the fellowship of believers. See, fellowship is so important. We need that fellowship to know that we're not by ourselves. I do know that youth ministry provides that. As I've mentioned in other segments that we've already talked about, or maybe that you haven't gotten to yet, you know, your kids are inundated at this age with differing philosophies from their school, from people who are atheists, from people who are different religions in their school, and they can very much feel attacked by their teachers, attacked by the things that they're learning and listening to that are antithetical to their faith, that are against their faith. And a youth group can provide a camaraderie to let them know that it's safe to believe in Jesus in this place. It's safe to continue to grow in their faith in this place. It's safe to be around other like-minded people to realize that they're not alone in this place. They need that both in a youth ministry perspective where they're dealing with people of their own age, as well as a church-wide perspective where they're getting the accountability and the knowledge from people who are older than them and letting them know that faith can extend beyond their age to something more special. So I think it's very important that we encourage our youth to be in fellowship, first and foremost within the whole body of believers, and then outside of that, if time allows for you as a parent, within the youth ministry of any given church. That can be a real building up to their faith. Now, fellowship is very, very important. And I think it's very important as parents to realize that at this age of 6th to 8th grade, there is a big temptation. And that temptation, let me just tell you right now, is extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities for you guys as parents, for the best benefit of your kids, often take your kids out of the body of believers. And you send an unintended message to your youth concerning the fellowship of believers when you very easily back out of life groups or small groups that you might have in your church, or Sunday school class, or Sunday morning worship, or keep canceling out Wednesday night if the time allows for that. You send a message to your youth that the fellowship of believers is not that important. But sports are, but these extracurriculars are. And I've seen very, very many parents spend so much time making sure their kids are a part of volleyball and basketball and cheerleading and you name it, football, at the expense of the meeting together of believers. That by the time their children have reached high school, their children are starting to decide that they don't really want to go to church anyway. And part of that is on parents who have modeled for them this idea that when it's church and something else always gets precedent. Make sure that you're not making that mistake as a parent, because it'll come back to haunt you. Because 20 years from now, you're not going to care whether or not your kids are playing sports. Only less than 1/100th of 1%, it's actually less than that, ever make it professionally. Your kids are not going to be doing that forever, but you're going to want them following their faith forever. And so for you as a parent, you have to make those decisions of saying, you know what? I'm going to make sure I get in these conversations with my child, and I'm going to make sure that the body of believers, at least on the church level, that they know how important it is, and we're going to go there together, and we're going to build relationships together, and we're going to be in community, and we're going to know that community and intimately. And that's going to be more important than these other things that might be good and might be good even for outreach, which we'll talk about at a later time, but can't make the replacement of the meeting together of believers. Remember, it's in Hebrews that we read that we're not supposed to forsake the gathering together of believers, and that people even back then in Hebrews, when we were talking to the Hebrew people, they were doing that. They were forgetting that, and we were supposed to have the body of believers to come together to encourage each other in our faith. If you take that away from your youth now, where are they going to find that encouragement? Because I do promise you this, they're not going to find it at their school. And they're not going to find it at their eventual workplace. And they're not going to find it, necessarily among the friends that they have, unless the friends that they have are within the body of Christ. And that's what needs to be focused on during this age time, that the fellowship of believers is important, that fellowship is important. So as parents, guess what? The fellowship of believers has to be important to you. The meeting together, the growing in faith, the intimate knowledge. We can't get sucked up in the ideas of this world and thinking that our children's time is the end-all be-all of everything. It's not. Again, I'm going to continue to say that your kids are older now. That freedom that you're starting to experience because your kids are older from 6th to 8th grade ought to be spent first and foremost on your wife. Outside of the body of believers, the next place that you need to be spending that time is with your wife. And so now as your kids are getting older and more independent and they can do more things on their own, you need to be rebuilding that relationship with your wife as that dependency is being laid, becoming less and less with your kids. And so that you need to rebuild that relationship with your wife more and more, having more date nights, spending more time together, because the best thing that you can give your children, The best thing you can give your children is first and foremost a relationship with Jesus Christ, and second, an honoring of your spouse, your wife, your husband as the next important thing. You building time for them is more important than you building time for those activities. In doing all of those things, you'll be building healthy fellowship that will both honor God and honor others in such a way that it will keep the faith of your teenager, of your preteen and your teenager strong. This is the type of foundation you need to start with that will continue on into high school. We'll have more to talk about there. Hope to see you next time. Hope this helps. God bless. Talk to you then. Hey, thanks for watching. If you'd like more great content and more videos like these to help you as parents disciple your kids, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook. Also, if there's a question that you have or a subject that you'd like to see covered in a future video, comment below on either one of these things and we will try and make sure that we cover these in a timely manner. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time.